Hi, it's LeJanaro back with another video. If you are new here, welcome. If you are not new here, welcome back. All right, so this is the last video with our McCalls 7331 Sew With Me videos. Today I'm doing the jacket, which is view A. I'm using this scuba knit fabric that I got from Fine Fabrics. The jacket at first did kind of throw me for a loop. I was going to sew everything in one day. I sewed the Saturday before Easter. I sewed the pants, the skirt, and the shirt all in the same day. But I decided to not sew the jacket until the next day, actually that Sunday, Easter Sunday. I wanted to read the instructions first. Because I had never made this jacket before, so I wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly. And the first couple of instructions kind of threw me for a loop. It's just me. The instructions aren't hard to follow. I was making it way harder than it needed to be because the front pieces you cut for, and for some reason that was just really confusing me. It's actually different from other jacket patterns or cardigan patterns that I've made in the past. So I think that's why it was confusing to me. I don't know. But it is also beginner friendly. It is a easy, straightforward sew. I just had to wrap my head around how to get those front pieces done. And again, not difficult at all. You'll see in the video, it's not difficult. But I think that's it. I think that's not really anything I needed to tell you other than that. So let's get to sewing. All right, we are back with McCalls 7331. This is view A, the jacket. So here are all the pieces you're gonna need. You're gonna need piece number 1, which is the front, and you cut 4. Piece number 3 is the sleeve, and you cut 2. And piece number 2 is the back. You cut 1 on the fold. All right, so I have been reading these directions. At first I was completely confused. I might still be confused. But we're in this together. And we're going to try our best to make this jacket. I think I was confused because piece number 1 has 4 pieces. And they're both for the front. So I think that is what was confusing me. But I'm going to follow these directions to the best of my ability. Please make sure you read the directions because there are places where you are supposed to put interfacing on certain pattern pieces. So make sure you read your instructions on that. So we're starting out with piece number 1. And we are to, with right side spacing, pin the front sections together along the center front seam. Right, so let me just make sure of the camera angle before I start pinning, because I want you to be able to see this. Because I cut 4 pieces, they're already right size facing, so make sure that they are right size facing. I promise I am gonna change the camera angle if needed. I just want to kind of straighten this out a little bit first. I'm coming, I promise. I also have to find my pens. I don't know what's been up with me in the last couple of videos. My pens have been on one side of the room and I've been on the other side of the room. Alright, so let me check my camera angles and then we'll get to pinning. Pins. Right, so I am supposed to pin here to here and here to here. Right, so remember you have 4 pieces that you cut. Put 2 of them right sides facing, the other 2 right sides facing, and pin down the center front. And there is a notch on the center front. Right, and then we sew down the center front seams. Right, after we sew down the center front seams, it says to serge the seams, and then we press, of course. Once you get it sewn together and you either trim down your seam allowance or serge your seam allowance, you give it a good press and then you understitch the seams. All right, this is one side of the jacket. You do the same thing to both front pieces. So we sewed down the center front, we either serged or trimmed down the seam allowance, and then we did our understitching at the machine. So next thing we got to do, it says align and pin the jacket fronts with right sides together along the lower edge. Right, so I'm just gonna place this with right sides facing. Right, and it does tell you in the instructions eventually if your if it seems like you have a little more jacket, just trim. I'm going to see if I can line mine up. I'm just putting these pins for me to line these areas up. So now it lines up a little bit better at the bottom for me. There we go. All right, so right sides together, I need to pin across the bottom here and then sew across the bottom. Then you serge or trim just like you did before that seam. And then you know how we cut the corners in when we're making bags, and because we want a nice corner when we turn the bag to the outside. That's what we're gonna do to this corner here. Once we sew it and serge or trim, then we're gonna cut at an angle. Don't cut through the stitching, because when we turn this to the right side, we want it to be a nice crisp angle, right? So I'm just gonna pin this, and whatever I'm doing to this front piece, I'm also doing it to the other two front pieces, because remember, there are 4 front pieces together. Alright, so I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew across. Alright, after we get that done, now we need to turn the jacket to, well, the front. Turn it to the right side and press. Right, once you have it turned to the right side, take both fronts and give them a good press. I already pressed one side, so here is the pressed one here. Alright, so next thing we got to do is pin the raw edges together at the side seam, armhole, and shoulder, making the 2 layers lay flat. And if the inner jacket is slightly larger than the outer jacket, trim the excess fabric. Right, so we are essentially going to pin the shoulder, the armhole, and the side, and then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and then just baste everything that we pin: the shoulder, armhole, and side. We're just going to take it to the sewing machine and we are going to baste that together after we pin it. And with basting, you use the longest stitch on your machine. Just to hold the pieces together. One of my pins is bent. I need to put it in the broken pen bottle. Right, got the shoulder, shoulder and the side seam. Now I'm pinning the armhole. I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to baste. Once we do that, we can set these pieces aside and we'll start working on the back piece. Right, I'm going to do the same thing to the other front after I press it. And then when I come back, we will start working on the back piece. And I think the back piece and the sleeve piece is where you have to put on the interfacing, which starts at number 12 in the instructions. So again, make sure you read those instructions and pay attention to what they are asking you to interface. Alright, so now the back piece. What it wants you to do is serge the neckline and serge the bottom of the back piece. I've already done that, just so it'll have a clean edge and a clean finish. After that, grab your front pieces and pin them at the shoulder seam. So right side's facing and pin at the shoulder seam. It feels funny because because of how the front pieces are already to get how they're lined basically. I'm going to pin these together so I'm at the shoulder seam. And then once you do that, once you sew the shoulder seams together, then you serge them. If there's any excess seam allowance, they say trim that away. And then after you do that, you're basically going to hem the neckline. Alright, so pin at the shoulder seams, sew, serge, and then you're going to hem the neckline. Like I said, these instructions are a little bit confusing to me, but I mean, they're straightforward, but looking at the pictures, they're also a little confusing to me. Because after I sew these together, we're basically gonna, fold down and hem this, but I can't quite see it in my head yet. So bear with me as I try to do this. Okay, so I got the Front and back sewn at the shoulder seams. And across the top, the neckline, we're actually supposed to turn that down to hem it. But I actually like this look. I like the serge look. It blends in very well. So I don't think I'm going to turn it down and sew it. Right? So next thing you have to do is, if you do decide to do that, just refer to the instructions. It tells you how to turn it down and how to hem that neckline. But I like that serge look. I like it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to turn this, because we're going to, I actually turn it the other way. Because now you're going to add your sleeves. I actually need to work on this side. So you're turning your back and your front, the right side facing up. Alright. So now you can add your sleeve. Once you add your sleeve, you sew down the sides and hem the bottom, you'll be done. So it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was just trying to wrap my head around putting the front pieces together, because it was 4 of them. And I don't know why that was difficult for me to understand. But I get it now. My battery is down on my camera, so hopefully it doesn't cut off on us. Whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way for me to do this. You will have notches. Got 2 on the back, 1 on the front. So you match your sleeves the same way. So find the sleeve that matches those notches with right side spacing. You saw me do this flat method with sleeves with the top, so not doing anything different from that. Once I get the sleeves sewn, pin down the side seam, sew down the side seam, and hem. We'll be finished. So it wasn't as bad as I thought. Alright, so I pinned my notches first, and then I pinned the rest of the sleeve together. You should have notches and circles for your sleeve so you can match up everything properly with the sleeve. And like I said, if you ever find that your sleeve is just not fitting right, you can always do some gathering stitches on your sleeve. Alright, I'm going to finish pinning this and then I'm going to sew it. Because my battery is about to go out. got the sleeves attached. So here's the front piece here. Here's the sleeve, here's the back. So I'm going to place this, I'm going to do what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other side. I'm just going to take this, here's the shoulder seam, just going to take it and fold it all over so that it's right side spacing. And all we have left to do is pin and sew from the end of the sleeve all the way down the side seam. So you should have some notches on your sleeve. And there should also be some notches on the side seams. Yeah, right here. Right. And remember, you still have to hem the bottom. So if you have a little hang off here on the bottom, that's fine. You still have to hem that. Once we sew down the side seam, the entire side seam, starting at the arm, end of the arm, we do that on both sides. All you have left to do is to hem the bottom and hem your sleeves, and you'll be done. Alright, so the cardigan is done. It doesn't look like much on the table. I am going to take some photos, and there'll be some photos at the end of the video, but it is done. I just have it pulled back. You know, the front piece is pulled back, but the cardigan is done. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Once I figured out the front pieces, and I really honestly don't know why it was confusing me in the first place, but once I figured out the front pieces, everything else was smooth sailing. So let me know in the comments, have you ever made this pattern, McCalls 7331? Do you plan on making it now? The whole pattern, all the pieces are very straightforward, and I like it because, you know, you can make whole outfits with it. So it has the jacket, a top, a skirt, and pants. So you can definitely do a lot with this pattern, mix and match, and do a lot of different things with this pattern. Again, it's McCalls 7331. I'm actually not sure if it's still in print. I've had this pattern for a while. Like I said, I actually made this pattern, the pants and the top. I forgot. It's been so long. Had to be like 2021 or something, 2022 maybe. Because I found a YouTube video on them, and it was, I can't remember when it was, but anyway, here's the jacket. Let me know in the comments again if you have made this pattern, if you plan on making it, and I'll see you in the next video.